First of all, I'd like you to tell our viewers about some basic, simple tips and tricks that they can do when they start out in the world of internet to be a little safe.
Thank you, Sameer, and thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Google. Keeping it very simple, especially because it's for the users, the 5 tips I'd like to give is one, have a good account protection. So you must have heard about two-factor authentication and
Yes.
keeping passwords more complex. I think these two go a long way to keep your account safe. The second thing is computer and operating system updates. A lot of times people don't keep their operating system updated both on the phone as well as on the desktop, and there are a lot of security vulnerabilities that these organizations send to us, and keeping it updated keeps you safe. So that's the second tip.
So essentially, that's when you get a little pop-up on your phone that says update available
Absolutely,
and
with a
install
little
now.
arrow and say
Yes.
install it now. Please take that seriously because that goes a long way to keep you safe. The third thing that I would advise is don't click anything that is too good to be true. For example, you get those lovely emails from Nigeria that claim that you have won millions. If it was so easy
Yes.
to win millions,
Yeah.
all of us would be rich. I think it's very, very important to understand that there is a concept called phishing, where you would be giving a lot of your information that would make you susceptible to damages later on.
Okay, so just to explain to our viewers, phishing isn't when you go on a little boat and catch fish. That's not the F. This
It's
phishing starts
P.
with P.
P.
And you can actually Google the term, and what it is essentially you might have a website like Facebook, for example, where it might have a little S and the logo might look similar to the original one. It'll ask you for your login credentials, and you will suddenly give your login credentials to some third party, which is hacker. So you need to verify the URL is the best way to
Absolutely.
catch whether it's phishing. So could you elaborate a little bit on
the
someone who's
URL.
just logging in? What should they keep in mind when looking at the URL?
So when you look at the URL, especially when you're giving something called a PII, PII is a personally identifiable information. This includes things like your names, your date of birth, your address, your banking and financial information. So when you're giving any of these information, make sure that the website is secure. One, it's a trusted website. There are several ways for you to look at the trust score of a website by doing search. Second is you have to look for the HTTPS, which actually is a claim of security. If you're using a Chrome browser, you will see a little padlock on the right that says that this is a safe browser. There is also something, especially with financial organizations, that's called the certificate of authentication, and you get a small green URL that actually means that this organization has been certified to be safe.
So an easy way to identify that is when you go to your banking website.
Yeah.
So your ICICI, your Standard Chartered, or any banking website.
Yes.
When you put in your details, the URL turns a little green, or
Green.
it has a green
It's-
marker
yeah.
on the side if it's a different browser.
It's called the extended validation certificate, so you will see your URL turns green.
And are these certifications part of other shopping websites like Flipkarts and Amazons as well, or
Yes, it is true, and it's especially when you're giving any financial information. When you get into the checkout part of a transactional website, that's where you will see that it's either HTTPS, which is a more popular way, which is what you see a padlock with Chrome, or it is a certification. Not everybody gets a certification, but HTTPS is a good way to identify secure
Okay,
websites.
so those were two more tips, right?
Yeah. So two more tips. I think one is just being able to identify where you are giving away where there is an identity theft happening. So we actually spoke a little bit of that before, which is about secure websites, but really about emails or people calling for information, or you giving information in a very basic website on where you're located. And this could be social network, for example, with kids. So somebody is asking you where you're located, you give your phone number and you give your address, location, everything. You're giving a lot of information, especially for young kids, on where you're located, which is not safe on the internet. And we've seen a lot of cyberbullying, kidnapping, etc. happen because you've given a lot more information on a social network site than necessary.
Yes, so even when you have a bank, they usually send you a message once in a while that do not give your OTP, do not give your credit card
Absolutely.
details. As a personal example, I did get a call once saying, "Sir, we need to transfer money to your account. Please share your bank account details."
Yes.
And I was like, "But what is this for?" And they refused to answer. And then all of a sudden, when they realized that I was educated enough to ask the right questions, they hung
step
up.
back.
So you actually should be very, very, very careful. In fact, going a step further, if you receive an email from your bank asking for details, I'd suggest call up the call center and say, did you ask for these details? So always have a step to double check such information.
And then it's very important for you to understand that at the end of it, you're interacting with a computer. It's not a human being.
Yes.
So it may be Sameer on the other end of the chat that I'm chatting with. What's the guarantee it's Sameer? So a lot of times you don't know, and especially for kids and women, this is a very, very important fact that you have to be safe in terms of what information you give out.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last tip, which is the most important tip, is awareness and education. And I say, especially for vulnerable communities like women and children, I say have a conversation with them in terms of what it takes to be safe. There's something called a digital footprint. What are you leaving behind on the internet? You may leave a comment on the internet today which feels absolutely safe for you to have an opinion, and tomorrow when you've applied for an internship, your employer is checking you on the internet and seeing what is the digital footprint. No, that does not agree to our culture. We are not going to hire that person.
Okay.
So it's very important that don't leave photographs, images, point of view, which is actually very radical, that comes to impact you later on. And stay safe on the internet. There is also something called reporting. Every product, be it a competitor product like Facebook or Google or Twitter, gives a mode of you to complain to the organization when you find that there is a violation. Report a violation, go back to a confidant to report, especially for young kids, and make sure that these issues surface and are addressed.